Happy New Day, CSA. First of all, I have to thank Reverend for his introduction of myself. And when we were at Adabraka, I remember when I passed my final exam as a navigator, that is when I got my master's, I came to tell him about it. And then he asked me, what is that all about? I said, well, that gives me the opportunity to become a captain. From that day, he started calling me Captain Hammond. And I wasn't feeling so comfortable because I haven't actually, been there as a captain. When they say you're a captain, it means you have done your master's course and you have taken command of a ship as the overall boss. So when he started calling me, I said, well, if somebody hears that they are calling me captain, they will say, this guy, you haven't reached there and you are, being pompous or something like that. Well, I accepted it that way. In no time, I was promoted as a captain. Then at the same Adabraka, one day he wanted to introduce me. I came to maybe share inspiration or something. Then he referred to me as Reverend Captain Hammond. Then I saw Razak smiling. And Reverend said, well, these words that have gone out of my mouth will never come back void. So if I'm sitting here today under the title of Reverend Captain Hammond, then I'll say, I thank Reverend also for everything. Now, yesterday, around 8 o'clock, my wife called me and said, have you prepared for your sermon for today? I said, yes. Apparently, she hasn't seen me doing anything at all. Then we went to Kolegodo. I went for a meeting. And then we visited her mother, that's my mother-in-law. On our way coming, she asked me again, do you have everything in your mind? I said, yes. Then this morning also, as we were driving from home to CSA, she said, are you rehearsing the things you are coming to say? I said, yes. Everything she said, I said, yes. And it's like she started interviewing me. What are you going to talk about? It's like you want to share your encounter with CSA and then the benefits you've had from CSA. I said, yes. Then the last 3 weeks, when Reverend Father Abraham came to sit here, he talked a lot about meditation. And he talked about some of the diets we can eat to enhance our meditation. Also talked about some exercises. Then the following week was the turn of Reverend Nanayao Obing, if I'm right. Then he also shared about meditation and then a little bit of creative imagination. During the whole of last week, Reverend also hammered a little more about meditation. And he told us about what Roy told him, that during the week, at least you should meditate twice in every day, in the morning and in the evening. And it should be a minimum of 30 minutes. But over the weekend, when you have plenty of time, you have to meditate deeper. He shared a lot about these things with us. The question is, what is meditation? What is it all about? Sometimes we go too deep, but we don't come little down for those who may have a little insight about what meditation is all about. The way I look at meditation is that all of us here have come here for a purpose. And that purpose, it appears when you get into the world arena, some of the things that we see around us engages us so much so that we tend to forget the reason for which we are here. So every time we talk about meditation, all we are saying is that, God, it's you who came here as me. But the purpose for my being here, I have forgotten. So I want you to remind me. So your sitting down in meditation is basically about the fact that you want God to reveal to you on daily basis or moment by moment what he expects you to do. If you don't have this insight, all that you are doing is like living from your mind's level. And this sort of living is like the way everybody is living. But when you want to excel in life, what you actually need to do is to align yourself with God. When I say align yourself, the masters, they knew how to align. Sometimes you go to some churches and the Osofo will tell you that, well, God says, God said this, and so on and so forth. How did he know that God said this? He must have linked up with God. And I also always say that any pastor who would keep you in the subservient manner, that is like always come to me and I'll do the connection for you, that pastor is not correct. And if the pastor wants you to be who he also is, that is how all the masters of this tradition have been. They have lifted all the other masters to a level where they can leave them to do what they are expected to do. I remember my first encounter with meditation. I joined CSA in 1986, I think somewhere January. And I have always shared, there was a lady in CSA at that time. Her name is Marjorie. I was sitting down at Kolegono at our house. There was a garage. I was sitting in front of the garage and she was coming to church. Then she called me and said, I'm going to church. Why don't you let us go? We have a very young pastor. 1986 means Reverend may be very young. And he's very good. Why don't we go there? I said, you see, I haven't bath. And I don't have the time now to go. So you next time come, I'll go with you. Then I asked her, where is the church? Then she showed me at Adabraka. Those of you who know where CSA is located, you'll realize that at the corner, there used to be a jewelry shop. Around that street, there's an apostolic church down there. So the direction she gave me, I mistook it to be the apostolic church. When I went there and what I saw, it's like, this is not what I'm expecting. So I came back to her and told her that, look, what you have told me is not correct. Then she said, don't worry, I'll take you myself to the church. So the following week she came and then we came to CSA. And I was sitting at a point where I could hear everything that Reverend was saying at that time. And during meditation, Reverend said, lift up your gaze to the point between the eyebrows. As soon as I heard this statement, something clicked in me, which tells me that, look, you know this already. That means I may have been doing this before, but maybe I must have forgotten at that time. It is from that time to this moment that I have never, ever, shied away from meditation. That day in question, when I went home, I wanted to do the meditation at home. And we were then in a single room at Kolegon. So I woke up in the morning around 2 or 3 a.m. and I was sitting by the edge of the bed and I was trying to meditate. Then suddenly my wife woke up and she saw me and she said, what are you doing? It's like she was not feeling comfortable about it. Then I tried to explain it to her. At that point, I knew she may not have understood it properly. But I persisted in the practice. whether she agreed or not, I continued to do my meditation. After some time, it appears that she came to understand what it is all about. So as we are today, it appears sometimes if I haven't meditated, she will call my attention to it. There was a time we were in the US together. That time our elder daughter had a first baby. And when we got there, one morning I woke up and she said, no, I would meditate with you together. So we sat together in meditation, and I have from that time till now felt that she clearly understands what meditation is all about. And it also appears that she would want to meditate, but most of the time I give her the chance to show that commitment, and then we'll do it together. In short, she understands me now. Now, coming back to some of the benefits of meditation. There was a day our second daughter was supposed to go to France, and I have paid everything up front for her course, I think a 1-year course. What I was left with was, I think, $1,200 for her air ticket. That day, she got worried where we are going to get the money from. I meditated, and I heard the voice, wake up and go. So I told her, let's go. The money would come. As soon as we sat in the car and drove off, I had a call. I didn't know who called me, but I told her this call is the call that is going to give us, or the person calling is the person that will give us the money. Then the call went on. Are you Captain Hammond? I said, yes. I heard you are going to pick up a ship at Djibouti. I said, yes. I want to see you because I want to send you for something. Then I said, where are you? He told me he was at Kufuor Junction at that time. That day we had the heaviest traffic that I have seen in my life. Everywhere was jammed. So the distance, which could have taken us about some 15, 20 minutes, took us almost 1 hour. And anytime the guy called, he said, if I'm not able to reach there, he will want to go to some place and then we'll meet later. I said, no, keep waiting for me, I'm coming. So to cut a long story short, we met him. Then he told me he bought some things from China because their ship went to China, and the things are lying at Ethiopia, and he wanted the things to be brought to Ghana by air. So there's some document which he had to give to the company at that time. So he gave me the documents. After that, I told him that I need a request also from him. He said, what is the request? I told him I needed $1,200. And he said, it's no problem, he will give it. That was a Tuesday. And I was supposed to fly the following day, Wednesday. And he said that money will be delivered to my wife, I think, on Thursday. So I was at sea when I had a call that that money has been delivered, and my daughter made that trip to France. That is one of the benefits I had in meditation. Maybe I haven't told her also. The second one, which is also a major one, was when I shared here some time back that somewhere in 1994, 95, I was working on the ship, and I was then a junior officer. I was supposed to go and relieve my senior officer for dinner. I had 30 minutes. So within that period, I was sitting outside, and I was just watching the sun at that time. Then the sun got something like glued to me. I looked at it for a very long time, and I got absorbed in the sun. In short, there was no sun, there was no me. It's just the two together. And we had a conversation. The conversation was, from the time you were created till that present time, you have never faulted. Every time you're on track, every time you are within your path. Why is it that when the clouds, they cover you, sometimes you don't play around and say, oh, nobody is watching me, so let me do my own thing? Then the son said, from the time I was created till that particular time, my maker gave me everything I needed. It gave me all the instructions I need to follow. And I'm following that path only. And he also makes sure that at every point, anything that I needed will be given to me. So that way, it's like, because I am doing my job as expected of me, my maker also makes sure that everything I wanted, I'll get. For that matter, the way we talk about sicknesses and so on, it doesn't happen to me. So then I said, what about a human being? I said, well, most of the time, humans think that we have a free will. Free will means you can choose what you want to do. So when you choose what you want to do, it means that the consequences also will be your own. In effect, if, let's say, you wake up, you don't want to meditate, you don't want to do anything about, what do you call it, alignment with God, then it means you're operating from the mind level. This mind, the way it is created is that it has been created to draw you with the senses outward. So anytime you are up to the mind level, it means you'll be in this world. That is where positive and negative occurs. But if you want to live beyond the mind, then it means you must know how to align with God to the point where you'll be above the mind. This is where Jesus sometimes says, be ye therefore transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transform means go beyond the form. So if you have a situation like this where you want to live at the mind level, then it means you may have problems all the time. So we human beings, we need to understand that the Creator who created each and every one of us has a specific purpose for each and every person. So for you to sit back and say, I have a free will, I want to do things the way I want, and so on and so forth, it doesn't work that way. And I've since not believed in that principle. If you take yourself, you go and buy a car, you don't expect the car to tell you where you must take the car to. Or like you want to plant a certain tree or whatever, then you put the seed in the ground. You don't expect the seed to behave the way you expect that seed to behave. There are certain, levels of intelligence operating in life. So all I'm trying to say is that we must shy away from that idea that free will does not most of the time lead us to where we are supposed to go. That is the second one. The third experience which I had in meditation, all these things I don't think, especially this last one, I have not shared with it anybody. That day I was so deep in meditation, and it got to a point where I heard a voice so loud. It says, this is where all the masters have been. And if you are here every moment of your life, you would also be my beloved son. I heard it clear. And from that day onwards, I have been trying to get that same experience all the time. But it has never occurred to me again. So I'm still pursuing that. And I believe it will be okay with me sometime. So in short, these are some of the experiences which I have had in my meditation. Now, I told you also that there's something I need to share from this book, which I think would explain a lot of things here. This book is by Joel Goldsmith. It's Beyond Words and Thoughts. It says, once you understand the nature of God, you stop trying to reach out to God with your mind. It keeps you from praying the traditional prayer of begging and beseeching God, and makes you laugh at yourself to think that God is here to do your will, or that you can influence God to do something that God is not already doing. All this begins to change when your attitude enables you to settle down into an atmosphere of receptivity. Prayer is then no longer words or thoughts. Prayer is no longer asking God to do something or expecting anything of God. Prayer now has a whole new meaning. It is a state of silence. So when your prayer becomes a silent one, all you are saying is that, God, I don't know what to do, or I don't know much about what to expect. So I'm sitting down in silence for you to tell me what you want to do through and as me. You know, when you go praying to God in a manner, shouting at God, shouting at God, shouting at God, where do you have the listening ear at that point to know that what I'm shouting at, this is the response? Because you are communicating with God. Communication must be a two-way affair. So when you start to talk, and God you are talking to also wants to talk back, if you continue your shouting or your talking, how do you expect to hear what he tells you? So in short, meditation is a form of prayer, which means be silent and sit before God. So this is one of the things that I needed to talk about, in fact, to buttress what our Reverend Father Abraham has said about meditation, and also what our Reverend Nanaya Obing also has spoken about. Now, before I encountered CSA, I was with a family of 11 sisters, and I have one brother. So my mother had 13 children, and I was the fifth born. I think my mother at that time were having a lot of female that's daughters, and at a point my father was not so happy with it. So when I came, my mother cherished me a lot, and I think they almost spoiled me, but God being so good, I took up, the leadership role as a man among them, and I have been consistent with all of them. So during the early stages of my life, my mother also liked me so much because she knew that being the only son, I have to be more alert and help her a lot. And I used to wake up with her in the morning around 4 o'clock, and then I'll go fetch water for her because she does cooking for public consumption. That she has a chop bar. So I'll go and fetch the water. We do all the necessary things. Then I grew up like that till around 8 or 9 years. Then I was supposed to go and ring bell at Methodist Church for their morning devotion. And that money which came out was to support her also at that time. So 5 o'clock I'll go there, ring the bell. 5:30 I'll ring again, and then the devotion will start around 6 o'clock. One day I went there to put on the lights to ring the bell. The lights were not coming on. Then I remembered that the day before was Sunday. The Saturday, somebody who was dead was brought to the church, and that fear got into me. So I quickly ran away from the church room, went to the catechist and told him that this is my experience. Then he said I shouldn't worry, everything is fine, it's just light off. So I also took it that the fear was too much. So I told him I cannot do that job again. So I quit it. Then on and on and on, I got to about 14 years. At that time, I didn't know who my father was. And my mother told me at that age that she can no longer take care of me. She would take me to my father. So we went to my father's place. That day when we were going, in fact, if you saw me, you weep. I was having, my uncle gave me shorts. At that time, the teachers were using black shorts. My mother bought a yellow t-shirt for me. I had one Chalewati green, the other one was yellow. Then my mother took me to an electric pole, and she stood there and told me, "This is your father's house, go there." When I went, my father saw me, he wept. And he asked me, "Who brought you here?" I said, "My mother." "Where is my mother?" "She already left." I was sharing this info with the, I think Tuesday class, Thursday, okay. So after some time, I came to live with my father. And my mother would sneak, prepare food, come and give me. Buy bread, come and give me. But anytime these items come, I have to consume them quickly. Because if my father comes to see that my mother is smuggling food for me, he will not be happy. So one day, my mother brought a very big bread. Big one, this Barnes bread, at around 2 o'clock. And I said, "No, this bread, I have to consume all before my father comes at 6 o'clock. So I finished the bread. And 2 hours later, it looks like my stomach started bloating. There was so much gas. I had to vomit through my mouth, my nose. I was going to running stomach virtually. So I couldn't sleep in the house. From 8 o'clock till about midnight, I was staying at the public toilet and lying there just to make sure everything settles. And the first lesson I learned in life is that anything you have, share, no matter what the circumstances. So it also built me up to look at my background. So every time I see I'm at any place, I look for needs. And that also my wife would confirm. Look for needs means anything which is not fitting, which is not right, I need to put it right. One of the lessons also which I learned from Reverend is that he said he stopped working at the complaints department now, but he works at the solutions department. I have also inculcated that. I don't like complaining too much. Mine is action. And people who are more like they can't bear the life here, always complaining about everything. What I tell them is, if you want that perfect life, hurry up and go to heaven. Because here, you will find the tribulations. That's what Christ said. So, me, if you want to complain, I'll just leave you. You keep the complaining. I'll look for the solutions. In fact, I wanted to share this message also as part of my message maybe on Father's Day, but I'll find the appropriate time and then go more deeper into my private life until I go to this point where I have become a reverend minister. So I think in short, this is what I want to say for now.